Guess the starting lineup. We did this last week with Missouri. Now we're going to do it with another team, and it's the Vols. The Tennessee Volunteers
Woo-hoo.
are up next. And we did this one because I think this will be easier than Missouri. And we'll see if we're proven right about this. All right, so just like we did last week, I think we can go ahead and fill in a couple spots that we know are
Yep.
pretty much locks. And that, to me, as I look at this, I feel pretty good about that being Zakai Zeigler, Chaz Lanier, and Felix Okpara. I think
Okay.
the others are, I could see different combinations elsewhere, although I'm with you, and we talked about this before. I think Mashack's probably in there, but
Mhm.
I could see a scenario where that's not the case. But I think those three are the ones I would start with, and then I'm curious where we go from there.
Yeah, so what I had is I had definitely Ziegler and Okpara at the 1 and the 5. And then I had Lanier and Mashack, but could see Gainey in one of those two spots instead.
Yeah.
Um, and then that leaves the 4, and that's probably the hardest one to decide between Igor Milicic and Darlinstone Dubar. Now I actually broke those two down way too far in depth to try to see who I would start. And I've got Darlinstone Dubar. Now they both started Power 5 and then transferred down. So Dubar started at Iowa State, transfers to Hofstra, and Milicic starts at Virginia, transfers to Charlotte. Um, Now they both played similar levels of minutes. They played a ton of basketball. Dubar's O rating a little bit higher, 121 to Milicic's 113. They both rebound slightly the same, but Milicic is a little bit better on the D boards. Milicic will turn it over more, but he'll also create a little bit more. Call that kind of a wash. But then Dubar, the 3-point shooting's the big difference. Dubar made 72 threes on 40%, and Milicic made 56 on 38. Not shabby at all, but Dubar quite higher volume and a little bit more efficient. So if you want to go with a little bit more brute strength, rebounding, need a little bit more physical, probably go Milicic. But if you're looking for some offense, some spacing, some efficiency, probably go Dubar. That's how I kind of separate those two.
I wonder from a size standpoint. Obviously, if Akpara's in there, you got a 6'11 guy.
Yep.
But if you go Lanier Mashack, you've got 5'9", 6'4", 6'4", with Zeigler at the point. And then if you put Dubar in there, it's 6'8" versus Milicic at 6'10". I don't know if that's a huge difference, but you see
Right.
my point is that,
Yep.
it would give you a little bit more size if you have Milicic, and like you said, maybe a little bit more rebounding as well. But Dubar's scoring ability is interesting to me because if I would see Lanier and Dubar as the most likely guys to lead the scoring attack, and I always say this, like everybody thinks I'm just leaving out Zeigler when I talk about that, but to me, the ideal role for Tennessee is for Zeigler to play the facilitator.
Mm.
Not that he can't score, but I think they're going to be better if he can turn Lanier and Dubar into 14, 15 or more point per game scorers, you know? And so, but if they have to rely on Zeigler, that's fine. But I think it's always a fine option to not have your point guard be the driving force of the offense, right? And from a
Hmm.
scoring standpoint, like, yes, he's the driving force in terms of making sure everything goes as it needs to. But so, yeah, like I'm curious, but that's also not to say that Milicic couldn't be one of those guys too. Like he could be the guy.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have a great read on that one. Like I just be honest, like this is one that just like we did with Missouri, I felt like we were more curious at multiple spots, but for this one, that's the one where I'm fascinated to see which one Tennessee goes with there.
Well, and the interesting thing also is these guys do not foul at all, and they play a ton. So
Yeah.
Dubar played a little bit over 87% of the minutes at Hofstra. He only fouled twice per 40 minutes. You go to Milicic. He played just over 81% of the minutes at Charlotte. He fouls a little bit over 3 times per 40 minutes. I mean, so you're going to be able to play a legitimate 40-minute two-man game at the 4 with Dubar and Milicic. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 20 minutes, 20 minutes, split even. But for argument's sake, I'll go Dubar to start.
Could you see a scenario where it's Ziegler, Lanier, Dubar, Milicic, and Okpara.
I've seen that thrown around like in the Trilly Discord and a few other places. You know, I
I
would
think
love to
that could
see.
happen, Max. I'm gonna be honest. Like the more I look at it, I think that could be fascinating. But
Well, if you watch that Hofstra Duke game where Dubar hits like 7 threes, you start to get some ideas flowing about what they can do with this guy. Hey, I would like to see a little Dubar and Milicic. I think it'd be interesting.
have Zeigler, Lanier, Dubar, Milicic, Okpara, with Gainey and Mashack as your first two off the bench.
Got Estrella
I
also.
mean,
Estrella's not bad at all.
yeah, you've got Estrella who already played, quality key minutes last year.
Yeah.
I might like that a little more than I like any of the others because then, and I know it's like you lose guys and you expect the guys who played complementary roles last year to automatically move into those next roles, which to me, that's Gainey and Mashack. But, maybe that's where they're best served in terms of like you're getting the most out of them there, where they don't have to necessarily just all of a sudden become, a 10-plus point per game scorer or something, which I think Gainey, we talked about the sixth man of the year. I think Tennessee's got multiple options here because it depends on who they decide to start and who kind of fills that sixth-man role. But if Gainey's the first person off the bench, if Mashack's the first person off the bench, or maybe it's a Milicic or a Dubar, like they're all possible candidates, I would think. So
I've also seen a lot of Cam Carr breakout watch. Also,
yeah,
I've seen a lot of hype around Cam Carr. So,
all right. Well, this one you're gonna go Milicic. I might go with the big group of Zeigler.
You're going
Lanier,
big?
Dubar, Milicic, Okpara, but I don't know about that. I think Gainey's the one I have a hard time figuring out. Man,
Yeah.
I feel like they want to start him, but then you would have to probably go Zeigler, Gainey, Lanier, which I think you could do. I think you could put Mashack as the first off the but again, yeah, you still have the Dubar Milicic discussion, but I could see that. I mean, you got scoring right there. If you got Lanier and Gainey on the floor at the same time, good luck guarding you. And then if you got Milicic or Dubar, like you've got scoring there too. So, yeah.
I think if you're looking at it from like Rick Barnes' point of view, if you want to sacrifice a little defense and pump up the offense, probably take out Mashack and put in Gainey. If you want to make sure you've got the defense on lockdown, you gotta probably have Mashack on the floor because you don't have as good as Dubar and Milicic are. They're not Josiah Jordan-James defensively, So Mashack's defense then becomes a little bit more valuable. But hey, they got options.
Yeah, may not need as much scoring if you have Lanier leading the way like we think, and a Milicic or Dubar leading the way scoring wise, and Zeigler of course is going to score. So you would need Felix filling that role inside. Mashack on the perimeter. So, yeah, I think there's multiple combinations here. So, I think Tennessee's got one of the more interesting cases when it comes to figuring out their lineup. So, all right, there's a look or some thoughts on Tennessee's starting lineup. Let me tell you about BetOnline, your number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup playoffs this season. And you can also bet, as I said, on the national championship odds, which we'll talk about Alabama's maybe a little bit. Every stat, every matchup, and live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When it's over, you can get over to the online casino, get on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get on the action. Use that promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online. The game starts here.